Over the years, I've looked at conflict slightly different than most people. I basically look at three types of conflict. The first one is you-me. This is the very common, we all understand you-me conflict. Well, what about me-job? And what about me-me? I'm going to tell you some stories here to help you understand this. If I have a me-me conflict, who am I going to fight with? How am I going to carry this out? Fighting with myself, I cannot win. So I turn a me-me conflict into a me-you conflict. And then we hire some professional who's really good at dealing with you-me conflicts to try to put us back together. So in other words, if I'm fighting either with myself or my job, I'm going to take it out on the dog, the cat, the kids, or the spouse. This is not good. What we really need to understand is if we have a me-me conflict or a me-job conflict, how to cope with that. We should be teaching some coping skills. I'm not going to address a lot of the you-me conflict here because it's in the book where you can see how various styles just have a built-in type of conflict unless they understand what each brings to the party. But on a me-me conflict, I want to go into a little depth and show you some graphs that typically have a me-me conflict, and then either on the wheel or on the graphs, a me-job conflict is just us not matched up with the job or the major duties and responsibilities of that job that require certain things. You know, some jobs require you to knock on doors and do things without knowing what's on the other side of the door. There's some people that don't want to knock on a door unless they can predict what's going to happen on the other side. This is very true about inbound and outbound telemarketers. S's and C's are very good on inbound telemarketing because they know what people are going to be calling about. They're not good on outbound because they don't know who's on the other end of the line and what they might say or do. D's and I's are a little better on the outbound. Doesn't mean that we're all good or bad. It just means that the slight edge goes with the S and the C on the inbound. It goes with the D and the I on the outbound. We also know that S's and C's are better at selling tangible goods. D's and I's are better at selling intangible goods. Makes a little sense, doesn't it? So we need to be looking at all of these things that we can discover about ourselves using behavior to help us understand and apply these things that will make us more successful in life and in our relationships with other people. A number of years ago, my phone rang, and it was one of my good customers saying, "Hey, I'm flying to town. One of my clients got a couple of people having conflict, and they're flying me in to resolve it." I said, "Before you say anything else, let me draw the graph of one of the people." I drew a graph, and he couldn't believe that I could identify the actual graph of this person who was involved in the conflict. This is based on experience and understanding me conflicts. We had both senior managers. One of them was a high D, low I, low S, C coming back up above the line. As you can see, the DC image right in front of you. Okay, they have a me conflict. The D says, "I can do it." The C says, "No, you can't." The D says, "I need to get it done quickly." The C says, "Oh, no, let's do it right the first time." You see the conflict that we have there, and the I and the S all play into the same game? Because we're having a me conflict, we got to find somebody else to carry it out in. But it's important to note the people that these are really good graphs, because this makes a great purchasing agent. I'm in charge here. I have low trust, so I'm going to make you prove everything to me and deliver what you promised. I've got a low S and a high D, so I've got a great sense of urgency, and I can deal with a lot of activities and change. And by the way, I'm going to make you do it right. So see how these various things, they do make great purchasing agents, and I've seen it over and over again in a plant where they had to buy a lot of things from a lot of different vendors. Let's look at another me conflict, the I and the C. The I says, "I can do it." Again, the C is saying, "No, you can't." So this really deals with that ego. Remember, the I loves social recognition, and the C is afraid of mistakes. Look at the me conflict here. If I make a mistake, I'll lose my social recognition. And so I'm going to start out, I'm optimistic. I tell everybody, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, but I never get it done. So it's a me conflict. We also have the D and the S. The D says, I can do it. The S says, be sure you follow up and follow through. That is not a natural talent of a high D who's quick to anger to be able to slow down and follow up and follow through. So again, you can see a little bit of a me-me conflict between the D and the S, not quite as strong or as me-me as a couple of the others I've already talked about, the DC and the IC. And then the other one here where we have the D and the C both low and the I and S above the line. I have to call that a me-me conflict, but I really don't see them really get involved too much in fighting with other people. It's internal, but they more or less keep it internal. So we need to help them grow, but you won't see them getting in much conflict with others, even though they have this me-me. Remember, the low D is saying, wow, I'm going to be slow to anger. I'm going to be analytical. And then this low C says, hey, I want to be my own person. You know, a little bit of conflict on that end, but it's a me-me fight that doesn't play out big time in other people's lives. But again, we can help people cope with what's going on in their mind by letting them understand how these things, they're actually a team within a team. That's the way to approach it. You got two team members here. You got your low D and you got your low C. They're working for you. I was up in Rochester, New York, and I was speaking to a group of people up there. And at the end of my speech, a lady came up to me and thanked me. Now, I've had them say a lot of things to me, but I'd never heard somebody come up and thank me. And I was talking about if you don't like to go to work on Monday morning, you're either in the wrong job or you're being mismanaged. She came up and thanked me and went back and resigned. She was in the wrong job, a great person in the wrong job. When you're in the wrong job, we can either talk to management, and management can maybe re-engineer the job to take advantage of your natural talents, or maybe they could find you another job in the organization in another department. But we really need to be looking at people and comparing people to jobs to eliminate the stress. Stress is not good for us with regard to performance or relationships. So it's not good either on or off the job. And America needs to step up and start looking at this. Stress is one of the things we want to look at from a behavioral standpoint. There's other issues and other assessments that we use to bring these things up to the forefront. But looking at a me-job conflict, we have tools to assist you in doing that. One of the tools we have is our assessment that actually looks at the job from strictly a behavioral standpoint. That is available, and we will be covering that in another e-learning here. Okay, we've introduced you to the theory behind DIS and C. We've talked about each of the individual factors. We've talked about their relationships. We've talked about people and other people. We've talked about DISC in the job. So what we want to do now is move into applications. How do we apply this in your consulting, your training, your coaching, other parts of your business, and specifically in selection, because it plays a role in selection, but DISC does not play a total role by itself. We do not recommend you use DISC alone in selection. You must use motivators, acumen, emotional intelligence, skills, other things to really look at the total person. Reflect back on the graph where I talked about what people bring to superior performance, and you'll understand that DISC is on the outside. It's how we do what we do, and we can go to the airport today and observe behavior, observe the how, but we cannot really understand totally what's going on inside of their mind until we use other assessments. Thank you and good luck.